Hi, I'm Scott Bainville.
I'm Jane Bainville.
I was not raised in a church home, a spiritual house. Religion was not part of our everyday life.
I grew up going to church all my life. It was just something that we did. We had to go every Sunday and, went to youth group. I guess I just never knew the love of God. He was always just a punisher, and it was just something we did.
Pretty hardcore, airborne paratrooper, recon squad leader, infantry soldier. I have no desire to go to church. My entertainment was found with wine and women. That was the only entertainment I knew. I had no desire for God. I had no desire to find out who this Jesus guy was. And my mom begged me to go to church with her. I said, "Are you serious? I have no desire." Until Mom said that there was a couple girls my age that attended there, and they were quite attractive. And
I knew our parents were kind of setting us up for me to meet him. My mom, I think, was still worried because she didn't know if he was saved or not. But he showed up, and we went on our first date, and I just fell for him.
And we realized at that point that we had something special, the two of us, that there was something that was being formed there, and that we didn't want to be without each other. We wanted to get married and make this a real thing.
Yeah, once we were married, I just want to say that we weren't really totally different, because at the time I met him, I was doing my partying, and so, I think my parents still thought I was innocent, but I was ready to marry him and get away from the church. And
so life in Alaska starts. Newlyweds have no idea what to do. I would say the partying starts then. Still no spirituality, no God, no Jesus. We're as a couple as far away from that. It's not even on our radar at this point. Come back to Minnesota, both get full-time jobs, build a house. We are doing the proverbial little white picket fence, and decide to have kids, to bring a kid into this. And I started realizing I was missing something at home. It wasn't a baby anymore. It was a little man. It was my little buddy, and I didn't want to leave him. Through all that, we get involved in some sports. We end up moving back up to Grand Rapids and have a little house in the country. And he starts to ask some weighted questions that I didn't really know how to answer. Things like, who is God, and what happens when you die? My heart's desire was to be the best dad there was. I had 3 great examples of what not to do as a father, and I was going to do something different. I think God listens to your heart, even though you don't look at your actions. He knows deep down what's going on in there. So there's a resounding question. How do I answer these questions that I really don't have the answers for myself? So I would say, you went to church all the time. Explain it to him. Yeah,
I guess I tried to, but that's when I realized that we really should be bringing him to church, going back to church.
So our answer wasn't to seek God, it was to go to a church. That's what you do. That's where God's at. He's in the church, and you gotta go to church, and you gotta go every Sunday, and you gotta dress up really nice, and you gotta tell everybody everything's going good, because you don't want people to think that your life is not going good, that there's still a lot of bad in your life. So we go into church, and I just remember that all that people did was sing. They're singing carried on. I got bored, I opened the Bible, and I read Psalm 51, not realizing what God was doing through His Word, that He was going to pierce my heart with that. It was David's confession about an adulterous affair, and how he sinned against God, and how he brought God a broken heart, and God fixed him and made him right. And David said, "I'll go on later to teach people about you, God." Pondering this, and not only know what's going on, as I walked to the back of the church, and the pastor caught me and said, "Where are you at?" And God asking me that question. A real quiet little voice just saying, where are you? And I was broken at that point. People talk about going forward to an altar call and giving their life to Christ, and that wasn't mine. Mine was different. It was God just touching me on the shoulder and saying, I know who you are. I know your name, and I know everything about you. I've heard every prayer you ever prayed. And I bawled. People talk about giving their life to Christ. I don't know if I ever really gave my life to Christ, but I know that moment in time is when God started to do a transformation in my life. Me as a man, me as a father, me as a husband. And one of the biggest influences early on in my walk was the fact that I owned my own business, and I could put on the radio whatever I want. So I put Christian radio on and I listened to sermons 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And it was just being filled with God's Word and having a revelation almost daily of what a loving God we have. But realizing that there's a relational God up there and that there was a Jesus that really died for me to make it right with God so that He doesn't see my sin. 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, for weeks on end, being filled with God's Word. Coming home and sharing it and having my wife say things like, how come you just get it and I don't? It's not fair. I was raised in a church. I should get it and you're getting way more than I don't understand how you're figuring it out. I never figured it out. And I went to Sunday school all the time. And what I realized as a husband was she's not understanding the relational side of God. She still sees this God as a punisher. This God is going to get her. This God, you got to keep the rules. There was a change in how I viewed my marriage at that point. God was slowly starting to show me that I had a job to do, and that He would do it through me. That He would reveal who Jesus is and how much love He has by transforming my life and watching Jane see it right before her eyes. So.
Yeah, I'd have to say when he was always listening to the radio, he was my mentor. I just thought it was crazy. Like, wow, you're learning so much. And it just kind of made me think, why all the years of our marriage, and I was a Christian, never did I once thought to bring him to Christ. And that just struck me hard that, I should have been the one.
I felt God definitely moving us along and saying, I'd like you to go check on a couple other churches in the area. So we began to church shop, I called it. And it was funny because when we church shop, we looked to see what does the church have for us to get. What do they have? What programs do they have? How can I be filled here when we go to this church? It was all about us. It was about me. It was about Jane. It was about Zach. What does this church have? Not looking at it with what can I do for the church, but what can the church do for me? I needed my needs met. And that's how we church shopped. So we started attending E-Free. All of us were game on. It was a great time. We were figuring it out. So ultimately what happened was I wasn't being discipled anymore. And it was easy to lose focus, lose sight of Jesus and the cross, and start putting other things higher on the priority list. So which resulted in skipping church for a Sunday. And then resulted in skipping for a couple Sundays, and then resulted in being gone for probably close to 2 years. So the three of us, the following Sunday, hand in hand, made one of the longest walks I think I've ever made, and I was walking back through the doors and being free. Except when I walked back this time in the doors, my question isn't, stop, what can the church do for me? Is what does the church need? And how can I wholeheartedly serve with every gift and talent and ability that I have? How can I serve the church? And how can I model that for my wife and my son both too? He put a mentor in my life, which as I look back now is probably one of the most profound things there were. I had mentors in Christian radio of listening to these pastors every day feed me. Well, now I had one on a personal level who was willing to invest time. He was willing to meet with me on a regular basis, willing to challenge me, challenging me to not only be discipled, but to become a discipler, to take that knowledge and wisdom that's being passed on to me and pass it on to somebody else. God says, you know, your first ministry I've given you is your family. Wow. Wasn't worship team. That wasn't the first ministry he gave me. The first ministry was my wife. And if I take care of that ministry, other ministries will come along. I'll be able to serve in the kingdom in other ways. But if I'm not willing to serve my wife in that aspect, I don't think he's going to bless me in any other ministry he really wants me if I'm not taking care of the first one. What's really interesting is I look at my journey of originally walking through the doors here, being what can a church give for me, and through this church, through this local body, being transformed by God here, and a lot of great people around me to the point where I've preached 6 sermons and haven't been booed once. Now God says, I got something else for you. So we've sold everything we own pretty much, and we're heading to Seattle, Washington to start the next chapter of this book God's writing. Heading out, gonna see my son and his wife are there. They're newlyweds, had their first wedding anniversary. They're all serving in their local church. Definitely feeling called to maybe go back to school, to work on a leadership or pastoral degree in some manner, try to get a little more wisdom and knowledge for the pulpit. Looking for a church that we can walk into and say, what is it you need? Because we're here to serve the kingdom. United in our agreement that here we are, Lord, use us. The harvest is plentiful and the workers are few, but it's time to go harvest.
Yeah, I'm really eager to find a church and figure out what God wants us to do. I've got enough courage now that I just want to go out there and I want to touch lives and get involved and make a difference.